Hello everyone, this is Ari Moshe Wolf of Heart and Soul Centered Astrology. In this video, I want to share some further insight in understanding the deep evolutionary significance of this current phase of the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So as I've spoken recently, Neptune is now back in Pisces. It's basically stationing at 29 degrees. There's a very deep culmination quality to it. Along with Saturn also getting ready to station next month, or at the precipice of a turning point. But the nature of this precipice is one wherein the new hasn't yet happened. And so I'm going to unpack a little more deeply this archetype of ending, what it's like to be in this phase before something new begins to happen. So I've spoken recently about this idea that we tend to over-idealize this belief that we can manifest whatever we want, however and wherever we want. And this is simply not true. From one angle, we can think of our life experience likened unto a prison sentence. So imagine you've received a prison sentence and you have a 2-year sentence and you're locked up in jail. While there can be some changes, it can be commuted to a shorter sentence. That change will not happen if you're whining and complaining and victimizing and acting in your worst behavior, right? When you're in your prison sentence, the best thing to do is to yield to the conditions of the boundaries and the rules and the parameters of your sentence. You don't have a lot of freedom from one angle, right? Your freedom in terms of what you can do with your body in time and space is profoundly limited. You can't just leave when you want to, where you go, what you do, where you sleep. Everything's defined for you. So if you yield to that, you work with it, and even more so, if you make the best of it, okay, you have a very limited and narrow space. You could be complaining and wanting to get out of this space, but if you use that space to do the stretching that you can, it's like, have you ever been on a long airplane and you found your own creative way to move your body? For me, it's like walking through the aisle and stretching as I go, or finding ways to do some movement or even qigong while I'm sitting down in my seat. There are all these ways that we can adjust and adopt to very limiting and narrow situations. So in our life, we have our limits, we have the situations that we're in, and we all often will tend to offer an immense amount of resistance, victimization, complaining, whining, wishing for something else, trying to negotiate with life to make it something other than what it is, and believing, deeply believing, that it should be something other than what it is. So I failed, I'm not doing it right, I gotta make a change. Or there are these conditions outside of me that I gotta fight, I gotta negotiate with them to get into a different state. There's an immense amount of freedom that becomes available to us when we adopt the mentality. It's a shift in perspective that says, this is exactly how it's meant to be. Not how it's meant to be tomorrow, but how it's meant to be right now. What we often do is we think that accepting conditions as they are means we're just going to accept a sort of victimization. Well, I can't make any changes, so I'm not going to be a healthy, happy, well person. But what I'm offering here is exactly the opposite, and this is the message. When we allow ourselves to accept the possibility, even just trying on the belief, the idea that things are the way they are, it actually opens up an immense degree of creative intelligence and flexibility and availability to experience something new. We give ourselves more freedom and more permission to work within the conditions that exist to get our needs met, to pursue our happiness, to live our fullest life. What does it look like to live your fullest life within the parameters of the life that you have right now, within what is possible? Now, most of us literally aren't in a prison cell. And so we do have a whole lot of freedom in terms of physical space, mobility, and movement. And yet, because we're very fixated on a psychology of resistance and fear and struggle and regret, we don't recognize that we can really work within the conditions of our life in a way that empowers our own agency. So a couple more examples. In my kitchen, if I'm making food and I'm short on ingredients, I've often found that my best cooking happens when my options are limited. Right? When I'm in a tight situation, we got to figure out what to do and how to make it work. There's more presence, there's more engagement. Right now, we're not in the new cycle. We haven't yet gone to this new phase where we can manifest and structure and build something more practical, sustainable, long-term, more grounding in the long game. We're in this process of ending. But the way that we embrace this ending is by recognizing that the current conditions, in their highest interpretation, they serve the purpose of training us to strengthen our own spiritual maturity, to live fully within the conditions of our life right now. Use the conditions, use the parameters, use the situations that we have right now. This is how we allow ourselves to flow into change. As this new cycle begins, we are already in a co-creative state of consciousness, working constructively with time and space for our purposes. So this is what co-creation truly is about. When you bring the Saturn dimension to the Neptunian co-creative archetype, there's a very deep spiritual maturity that says we are not waiting for the future, but nor are we being delusional in trying to manifest it all right now. I mean, this truly, to me, is what the essence of manifestation is all about. We create the vibrational reality that is congruent with where we want to go by working purposefully, creatively within our existing conditions. But this means we have to let go of judgment. It's necessary then that we're letting go of all of our striving and our beliefs that we or life or it should be something other than what it is right now. This relinquishment of judgment literally creates the space inside and outside for something that we cannot otherwise see. I need me, you, and life to be something other than what it is. We will not see what's possible right now. And this, again, is really that mysterious place where freedom and boundaries come together. This is the deepest teaching of Saturn. Really, it's deeply expressed right now in this balsamic phase with Neptune at the end of Pisces. As I've said, the limits and the boundaries of our life are not meant to be an arbitrary condition that we just have to accept. All prison sentences are temporary. And again, these can be commuted. But the way that we can change our, quote, prison sentence is by demonstrating our best behavior. It's like the present moment is just waiting for us to be here now. It's just waiting for us to stop struggling and join it here, to actually say, okay, I'm ready to start. This is one of the hardest things for any of us to do. To say, I'm ready to start now. Ready to start now will not be like, I'm ready to launch my $1 million business. I'm ready to make it right now. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we'll find that starting cannot happen. But I'm ready to start right now because I'm ready to start in the now, in my life, in the prison cell. What is the space that you have? So a mistake that we often make on this whole journey, and this just kind of makes things harder and slower, we create a lot of heaviness. We allow form and the conditions of time and space to become very weighted and heavy, often because we become very materialistic in our ideas of even our own spirituality. We think that getting something more, having something more, changing our conditions to something better will make our life better. But it almost never does. It almost never does. We can be in a mansion with many rooms, as many bathrooms as you want. Big rooms for yoga and meditation and an office space for... But if we haven't learned how to engage and live purposefully as a way of living, as a way of being, we will not find restfulness. We will not be able to settle our minds. We can't actually inhabit, and we're just gonna feel weighted by all the stuff, right? Versus having very, very little, but meeting that very little with our agency. There's an immense amount of freedom and growth and expansion and space that exists in any place, any moment where we're present. That's the trick of Saturn. This is a big teaching right now. So we can offer some blessing and grace and compassion and patience and curiosity and availability to the conditions of our life, every single one of them, every single condition. Especially the ones that just feel like, ugh, I don't like this. Because the I don't like this, okay, let that be so. Let yourself not like this, but don't dwell there. We can dwell in the preferences that we hold. In a sense, if we can simplify our needs, that will help a lot. The more we can simplify our beliefs about what we need, the conditions that have to change, we'll find that we can find a lot more happiness. All of the things that we think we need, all of the demands that we put on life, oftentimes we think it's an empowerment. Like, I need this. I'm not going to put up with something less than that. But it's actually very disempowering. Because it basically says, I can't be happy until something changes. That's not very empowering at all. It doesn't mean we don't value certain experiences. We're actually building our vibration, our own reality to be available for that. Certain things literally cannot happen, not because of some kind of abstract rule, but because we're not available. Vibrationally, we are simply not available for it. So the more we can simplify our needs and our demands on life, the more we can actually begin to find fulfillment and happiness. And then there's this creative agency to actually begin to improve and change our conditions from here. They had that core teaching, seek ye the kingdom of heaven first, and all else shall be given to you. I love thinking of that because that's sort of the punchline of the spiritual journey. We often miss this. We think we need to get all of the other things figured out first. There's no blessing greater than giving ourselves the permission to seek our fulfillment right here, right now, as things are. That's the trick. That's the Zen koan for all of us to work out. I offer my prayer, my blessings for me and for you, for all of us, to work with this during this phase. This is really what's happening now for the next few weeks as both Saturn and Neptune are really getting slower and slower and slower and getting ready to station. There's a concentration on, I can't move, I'm not changing this, things aren't happening. Don't try, don't add more debt, don't add more weight in trying to make changes prematurely. That's a big piece of advice that I want to offer right now. Let things be, let them be uncomfortable, yield to them. There's wisdom, there's growth, there's deep spiritual knowledge coming through this phase for all of us with the right attitude. All right, couple announcements. As always, I'm available for sessions, one-on-one relationship readings, and long-term soul-to-soul companionship sessions. You can subscribe to my newsletter to get the articles that I will often write along with these videos. I'm working on one today. I have my self-study training program that is available. You can always upgrade to the live cohort, which begins in the first season of every year. I have my community membership, which includes monthly meetings. We're meeting for our next monthly soul gathering where I offer live readings and teachings based on those readings. We're meeting this Sunday for our next gathering. And I have a class coming up. This is Mars aspects. I'm going to be teaching on Mars aspects from Saturn outwards. It's a 3-hour class, very useful for unpacking and understanding your own Mars aspects in your natal chart. All right, everything in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching.